Hello everyone and welcome to the Real Rundown. My name is Josh and today I'm here to give my 10 most anticipated films coming out in 2026. Now, this list will be in no particular order, however they will still be numbered to make it easier to understand. Also, this is my list and if yours differs, that's okay. I'd love to hear yours in the comments section down below. Now, with that out of the way, let's start the rundown. First off, I'd like to start off with 5 honourable mentions. These films I am absolutely looking forward to this year. However, they just barely missed out on my top 10. Now, these 5 films are The Bride, the latest film from Maggie Gyllenhaal, centered on the Bride of Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster, in a Bonnie and Clyde meets Frankenstein style film. The second is The Mummy, the latest film from Evil Dead Rises' Lee Cronin, in which he will be giving us a much more horror-centric take on the classic movie monster. Number 3 is Michael, a biopic about the life of the king of pop himself, Michael Jackson, directed by Training Day director Anton Fuqua. Fourth is Evil Dead Burn, the latest film in the Evil Dead franchise, this time directed by French director Sebastian Van Scick. Lastly in my honourable mentions is Project Hail Mary, the latest film from Spider-Verse creators Phil Lord and Chris Miller, and the latest film from The Martian writer Drew Goddard, based on the book of the same name from The Martian author Andy Weir. The film will follow astronaut Ryland Grace, who wakes in deep space not knowing who he is or how he got there, only to realize he was sent on a mission to save Earth. Now, with my honourable mentions out of the way, let's get on to my 10 most anticipated of the year. First up in my top 10 I have Werewolf. Werewolf is the latest film from writer-director Robert Eggers, best known for films such as Nosferatu, The Northman and The Lighthouse. The film is supposedly set in 13th century England and follows a village in the countryside as a mysterious creature stalking them that was deemed only folklore becomes a reality. Now, I am excited for this one as I am a huge fan of Robert Eggers' work. His gothic period horror films have stood out in today's modern filmmaking, and him now tackling werewolves after doing vampires with Nosferatu is really exciting to me, and I can't wait to see what he is able to do with them. Next, at number 9, I have Resident Evil. Hot off the heels of his smash hit success Weapons, Zach Cregger will be giving us a new original story set in the world of the Resident Evil games. As a huge fan of the Resident Evil games and loving Cregger's previous works, Barbarian and Weapons, I am ecstatic as to what he can bring to this beloved horror franchise, especially since it's an original story rather than an adaptation of one of the games. Also knowing what he can do with original horror films, this makes me even more excited for what he will do with this franchise. Moving on, next at number 8 I have 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. The sequel to 2025's 28 Years Later, and the next in the 28 Days Later franchise. The film will follow Spike as he is inducted into the Jimmy Gang, and Dr. Nelson as he forms a new relationship that will have world-changing consequences. As a recent fan of this franchise, and a fan of the first 28 Years film, I am quite excited for where they will take the series next, especially after the ending of 28 Years Later, which sets up a lot of interesting stuff. And as well, Cillian Murphy seemingly returning as Jim, which is really exciting to see. Next at number 7 I have Clayface. Clayface is one of 2 films DC Studios will be releasing this year as part of the DCU, and will depict the origin story of the shape-shifting Batman villain in the form of a body horror tragedy, and will also be inspired by the character's origins in the 2-part episode Feet of Clay from Batman the Animated Series. As a huge Batman and superhero fan in general, I will naturally be excited for anything superhero and Batman related, especially films about his villains. It's also exciting as this is the first live-action film appearance of the character, and the film is written by modern horror filmmaker Mike Flanagan, best known for writing shows such as Midnight Mass and The Haunting of Hill House, which makes me all the more excited for what he can do with a character like Clayface. At number 6 I have Supergirl, the second of 2 films DC Studios will be releasing this year as part of the DCU. This is written by newcomer Anna Noguera and is directed by I, Tonya and Cruella director Craig Gillespie. It is also based off the amazing 2021 comic Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow by Tom King and Bilquis Evely. As I said before with Clayface, anything superhero related I will automatically be excited for. However, what gets me excited about this film in particular is the comic it's based on, which is an amazing story about grief, trauma and revenge set against the backdrop of a sci-fi adventure, which makes for a unique story, especially a superhero story, and I can't wait to see how it's translated into live action. Next at number 5 I have Avengers Doomsday, the 5th Avengers film and the penultimate film of the multiverse saga. This film will see the likes of the Avengers, the New Avengers, Fantastic Four and the 2000s X-Men face off against Doctor Doom. Now, one thing I'll say is that I'm slightly worried about this film, as bringing Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans back feels a little desperate from Marvel. However, the thought of the most famous teams in the Marvel Universe battling against arguably the universe's greatest foe is enough to get it into my most anticipated, and I can't wait to see how they handle it. Coming in at number 4, I have Spider-Man Brand New Day. A fresh start for the wall crawler. This film will see Tom Holland's version of the character alone and neglecting the Peter Parker side, as he is battling against various foes such as Scorpion and Tombstone, and potentially teaming up with other heroes such as the Punisher and Hulk. Not much else is known about the film, especially who the actual main antagonist is, and what will really be happening in the film. However, the thought of this version of the character becoming more true to the comics, as well as being directed by Shang-Chi director Destin Daniel Cretton, is what really excites me about the film, and why it ends up on my most anticipated for this year. At number 3 I have Disclosure Day, the latest film from cinema legend Steven Spielberg. This film will see his return to science fiction, more specifically Aliens. Not much else is known about the film, however the thought of Steven Spielberg doing another Alien film is enough to get me excited, especially when his other films like this, such as Close Encounters of the Third Kind and E.T., are some of his best work, so I can't wait to see what he can bring to the genre again with a much more modern twist. Number 2 I have Dune Part 3, the third film in the Dune franchise, once again directed by Denis Villeneuve, and this time around an adaptation of the second book in the series, Dune Messiah. The film will be set years after the events of the first 2 films, as Paul rules over the universe as Emperor, as he battles conspiracies to dethrone him from within his own court. The first 2 Dune films from Denis Villeneuve are 2 of my favourite films of the decade, with the second film being one of my favourite films of all time. And as a massive fan of science fiction films, I cannot wait to see how Denis is able to tackle such a different story compared to the original book. Finally, at number 1, I have The Odyssey, the latest film from the legendary Christopher Nolan, with him this time around providing us with an adaptation of Homer's The Odyssey, the ancient Greek tale that follows the Greek hero Odysseus on his 10-year journey home after the Trojan War to reunite with his wife Penelope, where he encounters mythical beings such as the gods, the Cyclops Polyphemus, sirens, and the witch Circe. As a big Christopher Nolan fan and a fan of ancient Greece and Greek myth, the thought of Nolan bringing the original epic to life feels like a match made in heaven, and I cannot wait to see how he's able to bring one of the most famous stories of all time to life on the big screen. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment and share. Also don't forget to subscribe and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a single upload from the channel. And as always, I'll see you on the next rundown.